So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have yet another swim meet for our Ivy League championship. Competing first will be Mr. Will Witt and Mr. Taylor Trandle. Here we go and begin.
Oh, man.
Wow. Will is really trailing behind here. And it looks like Taylor has hit the wall first with a half a second lead.
Right.
How could I get better at swimming in a very short amount of time?
2 days later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Will Amala Witt is ready, brand new swimmer on the scene to compete against all the other women in our collegiate sport of swimming. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
I couldn't possibly catch up to him.
Close.
Oh, wow. 38-second blowout. You ladies suck.
Wow, this is really devastating for me. I don't know if I want to do
Trans
this sport
rights, baby.
anymore. Okay, and scene.
Good job, guys.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome
Oscars
to
who?
Oscars Who. I honestly, if we're not there and if we don't receive an award, you'd like to thank the Academy. Will.
Oscars so sis.
That was fantastic acting. Guys, thank you and welcome to Will and Amala Live. We're going to get to a story involving transgender swimmer Lia Thomas, who is now crushing the Ivy League championship. We're also going to be talking about the Freedom Convoy and giving you an update as Canada has begun to crack down on the protest in Ottawa. We're also going to be talking the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and whether or not he's a big fan of Justin Trudeau. You guys can guess down below whether or not that's the case based on everything that's happening in Canada right now. Plus, we have Officer Kimberly Potter being sentenced to 2 years in jail over the death of Dante Wright. We'll get to that. Parents fighting out against CRT, coming to bat at their school board meetings. A brilliant video of a man doing that. Bryan Cranston denouncing his white privilege and talking about the different roles that white actors should be taking. Plus, we have Marines being ousted from the military for not being vaccinated, and it's Fun Friday where we're doing some weird answer the internet questions. So we'll get there. Hopefully you guys stick around. Let's start off by talking about what's happening in Ottawa right now. So we've seen the back and forth that's happened with this Freedom Convoy. The Freedom Convoy launched. They descended on Ottawa with all these trucks. They've created what is seen as a civil disobedience, a nonviolent civil disobedience, by blockading the streets in Ottawa and keeping their trucks there for days and weeks now. We've seen the Canadian government respond by looking into their finances and saying now if any major contributions are made to the blockades here or in any way to help the Freedom Convoy, we will be freezing accounts as well as just going through the different avenues to freeze credit cards and not allowing people to make these transactions. And now we have the police in Ottawa, in Toronto, who are mobilizing as a larger force against the convoys out there. So here's an update out of Rebel News. Toronto police announces that they are mobilizing a heavier presence in the city's downtown area this weekend following widespread protests across the country. So they're going to have heavier presence in regard to this. It seems like the government is not backing down. The people are not backing down. And it is coming to a heightened reality here in Ottawa. Here's a video shared by Rebel News about what's happening in the streets there.
Keep the peace. Stay calm.
So these are police officers pushing into the crowd, trying to disband them and clear out people who are congregating here. It seems like this is the route that they've chosen to take in regard to the protests. And many Ottawa police officers have actually gone in and arrested the demonstrators as well.
Yeah, these police officers are not the good guys at all. They're absolutely the bad guys. If you see what's happening and you're this police officer, you can't just say, oh, I'm doing my job. It's past just, oh, I'm just doing my job. The Nazis were just doing their job, okay? If you are committing acts of violence and doing things that, are hurting people for just protesting peacefully, then you can't just justify it as I'm just doing my job. It gives me a bad taste in my mouth about law enforcement who do these kinds of things. I know that as conservatives, there's a lot of talk about, backing the blue, and there's lots of, when it comes to police officers, we support the police and a lot of things they're doing. But when you have police officers who are acting as bad actors like this, you have to call it where you see it and say, just because you're saying you're doing your job does not make it right whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, backing the blue, it does by no means says that you justify when police officers do things that are wrong. To give more context here, they've also set up nearly 100 checkpoints in Ottawa's downtown to see what people are doing, and they're conducting mass arrests of the protesters here. And, I'd love to see a little bit of consistency on the Canadian government's part. They were known for coming out and talking about how they supported the protests in Cuba when that was happening in the streets. And those were acts of civil disobedience where people were taking to the streets and saying, I do not stand for what our government is doing right here now. I want my freedom of speech. I want my freedom of expression. And I want to be uplifted from what we consider to be totalitarian measures being taken in our country. And the Canadian government came out and said, you know what, this is great. And we stand by the Cubans who are doing this. But now that it's happening in their own country, they have a different tune here. And they're mobilizing police officers. And it seems like this is going to get worse and worse, because if I've learned anything from the Freedom Convoys, that they're not going anywhere, and that these people are resilient and they're going to continue to do what they have been doing. And, so far it's been peaceful. You even heard in that video that we just played, keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace. It's not something that we heard very often during the George Floyd riots that we were seeing in our streets. So I'm curious to see how this is perceived by media. I've heard now that they're going to be arresting journalists who come and film the protesters being arrested, which is something that we rarely see. Journalists being attacked during these protests and being arrested for being there. It's really, really interesting.
God bless America. I mean, it's more than interesting. It's horrible what's happening. Yeah. It's not really interesting. It's just terrible to see what is happening to these people. That's why you have to say God bless America, because we have the First Amendment. We have the right to stand up and film things. We have the right to our own religion, and the right to have the press, the right to be able to speak our mind. We have that right that other countries around the world just don't have. That stupid newsroom segment with, what's the guy's name? I'm talking about, where he talks about America being not the best country in the world. The guy from Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, yes. A stupid newsroom segment. He's like talking about all these other countries and saying they're free, they're free, they're not like America. Okay, he says Canada's free in that exact clip, and it's been shared, thousands and thousands of times, millions and millions of views. You think Canada's free? Look at this. They don't have the same rights that we have as Americans. I'm so thankful every single day to be an American. And second of all, if this was 2016 to 2020 with our last administration, you better believe that Trump would have said something about what is going on. Where is Macron saying something? Where is the leaders in Europe, Western Europe civilization? Are they saying anything about this? Are they standing up for freedom? No, they're all a bunch of losers. And the reason why they're not saying anything is because they wish that they could do this to their own citizens. They all want to get on track and do this to their own citizens and arrest people and arrest journalists who say bad things about the government. They're fine with this. They're not going to come out and dismiss these people and dismiss the Canadian government and say they're terrible. They're going to say nothing, because this is exactly what they want to do to their own citizens. Yeah,
I think they recognize that a lot of people in their own countries are feeling this way about the regulations and everything that's happening and the different changes in their lifestyles that they've had to be subjected to during these last 2 years. And they don't want to fan the flames of something like that, because once you get people mobilized, which I believe there's a freedom convoy that's also mobilizing here in the United States and is being set in place, it's going to be somewhat of a domino effect. So, of course, these countries are going to stay quiet and sort of say, I'm not going to speak here. I'm just going to let things play out. And the people who do speak out are calling these guys extremists and white supremacists and Nazis, which are words that we've heard from Justin Trudeau himself, which is just amazing. And it shows the tactics that they use. They don't have an actual objection or an actual substantive objection to what these people are doing, and there's nothing that they can logically call out. So instead, they go to these ad hominem attacks about Nazism and misogyny and Islamophobia, I've heard, in regard to the Freedom Convoy. It's just ridiculous, and they're doing anything they can to paint these people as non-peaceful, as extremists, even though all the video footage that we have, all the documentation we have of these events points to the exact opposite.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau called unvaccinated people racist.
Yep.
What a stupid thing to say.
Yep.
And I'll read sometimes in the comments of the show and everything, and people will say, oh, Will, you're so negative and angry all the time about many of these things. And I understand. But when you see this, how can you not be angry? How can you not be angry and your blood boiling when you see police officers arresting journalists, arresting people for protesting for their rights back? I mean, you have children bouncing on bouncy castles in these places, and the police are coming and arresting their parents right in front of them. I mean, that is despicable. That is evil. That is all. That is what it is. If you do not get angry and upset and want to fight against evil, then I'm sorry. I don't know why you're watching the show. This is important. You should be angry about this. You should be standing up and talking about this on your social media and telling people about it and why these Freedom Convoy people are out there doing this. Because this is so important. These are heroes. These people, and they're continuing to stand. You even hear them in the video. They're saying, keep it peaceful, keep it peaceful.
Yep.
They're doing that on purpose. They want to remain peaceful and just stand up for their rights. And the fact that, people are just ignoring this, world leaders on the world stage, the leader of the free world, America, the leader of the free world, has said nothing about it in terms of standing with the protesters who are now getting arrested, is despicable. It's undeniably disgusting and terrible.
And you can tell that the government and the powers that be are doing everything that they can to paint them as evil people. And they are going to start to escalate the situation so that they can get videos of these protesters doing things that they can promote to people as being extreme or violent. And they're going to promote that to people. And they're going to show that as an effort to paint them as people who are extremists. And it's devastating to see that this is happening. And you have to think about the broader implications. If this continues and they do not win, the Freedom Convoy does not win, what happens to every single person who is documented to have been there? What is the government going to do when this disbands? What is going to happen? Because we're already talking about freezing the finances of people who are involved in it now. We're already talking about labeling them as white supremacists and Nazis and people who are anti-Canada. What happens if they do not win this battle? Which I think the people there are aware of, which is why they're putting up with the infringement of police on this now and their massive enforcement now, because who knows? Who knows what happens?
Resist much, obey little. Even if things look grim, even if it feels like there's no hope, you are still standing up for truth. These truckers, I mean, these are God-fearing people. These are amazing people who know what the truth is. And so even what Amala is saying about, who knows what's going to happen, even if it feels like you're losing, that doesn't mean that you stop fighting. You continue to fight, because if you know what the truth is, it could be you versus 99.99% the rest of the world, right? You could be the only person who knows the truth. And even as that one person, you continue to stand against the rest of the majority, because that is what is true. That is what these truckers are doing. That is what this movement represents. It represents more than just truckers and feeling bad about blue-collar jobs and stuff like that. It represents truth. When we live in a world of lies, of our politicians lying to us, of the science lying to us, the corporate media lying to us, corporations lying to us, then this movement is more than just about mandates. It's more than just about rights back. It is about a movement for truth, because truth has been suffocated from our society, strangleholded out of us until there is nothing left. And these people, most people, have a hankering for truth that they want. We all want the truth. But these people who are in charge, they know that hiding the truth makes people easy to control. Yeah. So this is why this is so popular. And this is why that you have to continue to fight and keep standing for this. There's no bigger fight right now. And there never will be a bigger fight than truth. Truth will always be the most important, whether it's about climate change, whether it's about this COVID stuff, whether it's about Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. Truth is always the most important thing, and it is worth fighting for beyond words.
Yep. And it's hard to look at all this and think that it's not connected. All these different campaigns that are happening across the world, and they seem to be all under one endeavor, and that's the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. Here's a video out of 2017 of Klaus Schwab, who we know as the sort of orchestrator of the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, which you guys heard a little bit about when we had Glenn Beck on the show yesterday, which you guys can go and watch that video. I also recommend that you watch James Lindsay and Glenn Beck talk about the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum and the powers that be and all the things that are working in tandem there to create these situations. Here's Klaus Schwab, again, the creator of the Great Reset, the idea born from his own brain, talking about Justin Trudeau in 2017.
And I have to say, when I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true. And
So you heard it from him, from his very thick accent, that Justin Trudeau is one of the young leaders in the World Economic Forum, which again is pushing the Great Reset. And it's no surprise looking at his leadership in Canada and the way that it's going. And they find that if they can destabilize all these countries, then it'll be much easier to push them towards this sort of globalist network and say, you know what, we're going to build towards a more sustainable future. Just put all the power in the hands of these few stakeholders, and they get to tell you what to do with your life. And what was the one quote that the World Economic Forum put out? In welcome to 2030, you will have no property and you will be happy.
You will have nothing, yeah.
You'll have nothing, you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy.
Yep, you will have nothing, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. And that is not something we pulled out of our own heads. It's written, and they've spoken about it, and this is something they've been very open about, and this is the plan. And to have the words of Klaus Schwab come out and say, you know what, Justin Trudeau is a young leader in this endeavor, it's so abundantly clear.
It's difficult to say. What I have to say about this is that when you look at these Canadian truckers and you look what's happening, I don't think the government of Canada and governments around the world have expected the amount of pushback that they have gotten. I mean, just when I was speaking at the Defeat the Mandates rally in D.C., that was 50,000 people. And the same day, Ava was at a protest in Brussels where people came from all across the European Union. There was something like 700,000 people who came and protested. 700,000 freaking people who came across Europe to protest what is going on. I don't think the world governments thought that many people would rise up. Now, still, look, we need a lot more. We need a lot more people. 50,000 people in an event in D.C., that's a lot of people. But, I mean, there should have been 700,000 people there standing up for their rights, right? We need a lot more people. But I don't think that they recognize that was going to happen. I think the COVID stuff is going to start rolling back. But the plan is, I mean, if we can get into this, I'll just say quickly. What's going to happen is that the world economy is going to have a major malfunction. It's going to have a major crash, okay? Especially because interest rates are so low on the Fed. And once the Fed raises the interest rates, it's all going to come plummeting down because our inflation is getting so terrible, okay? So inflation getting terrible, interest rates rise, you're going to have a crash, especially in the real estate market. It's going to be worse than 2008, okay? And once this happens, you have the European Union that's already working on a digital passport. They've announced this is what they want to do. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is what they want to do. They want a digital passport. They have the digital passport as your wallet, has all this kind of stuff. Get rid of normal money, get rid of paper money. That stuff is a thing of the past, and just have everything be digital. And then all the world governments work together to essentially have a digital currency that is on your phone that could potentially be a chip someday, like we're seeing in Sweden already, and it's all just connected to you, and the whole world is globalized, and you will own nothing and you will be happy. I mean, that is the way they roll it out. And they did this with COVID by pushing us into an economic disaster. You know, it's hard to know whether or not the people at the World Economic Forum and everything knew about COVID and what was going to happen. I don't know. It could be. I don't know. But what is true is that regardless of if they knew it before, is that they are going to use it for their gain now. And it's abundantly clear. And that is the plan. And if you are not ready, you will be taken out to sea by what they want to do with you.
Yeah, it's, you know, you hear it and you're like, that sounds absolutely insane. And you sound like you're spouting stuff that's just complete BS. But then you look into it and you see just like little dots start to connect and come through on this. We saw in Parliament, and I want to say it was the Netherlands, but correct me if I've misspoken, where we had a new member of Parliament come out and call out the Prime Minister and say, look at this letter that you wrote to Klaus Schwab about what he wrote about the Great Reset, calling it a hopeful analysis for a better future of the world, that we live under this globalist network of people, of stakeholders who control what we do with our lives. And like I said, James Lindsay in this interview talks about how it's possible that the leaders who are pushing for this do actually believe that with the technology that we've amassed and with the amount of progress that we've made in that field, that they are capable of making a world that is completely and utterly sustainable for all, so long as we all come together beneath this one idea and this one globalist network. But it's very hard to believe that would be successful. And there's no evidence to prove that it would be successful. So be wary of what people are saying and what people are supporting, because there are a lot of leaders who do support this idea. And it's been something that's been in the works for quite some time now. This is not the first meeting of the World Economic Forum.
No, I mean, they met back in 2019 about global pandemics, and it was literally about that, you know?
Yeah.
So they, again, whether or not you believe that they knew about this, whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, going back even to just what you were saying about truly believing it, I mean, you got Elon Musk. You guys know I'm big fan of Elon Musk. I think he's overrated. And he comes out and says, support the Canadian truckers. Yes, that's a good thing to say, but his companies are working on self-driving cars. Truckers are it's the most demanded job in America. You think that he's going to tweet about supporting the truckers once he replaces all the truck drivers with automatic cars? No, I don't think so. So these people choose their battles. They know what they're saying. They know what they actually believe in. I don't think that these people think that it is for the goodness. I think that they understand what they're doing, and they know that people are very self-interested. I think that's what it's really all about.
Yeah, I think it's starting to unravel more and more and more and more. And there might be something else that needs to cause unrest to get people to gather behind, because I don't think the pandemic is that thing anymore. I think people are fed up with the narrative.
No, the narrative on COVID is collapsing. Everything is going to change. I promise you that. Within 3 months, everything is going to change. Things are going to get better when it comes to masks and everything, even though Gavin Newsom just yesterday is coming talking about no endemic in sight, but he's an idiot. But these other people, it's ending all over the country. It's ending all over America. It's starting to end in European countries. It's ended in Africa. It's ending in Asia. It's ending all over the place. But there will be something new that will happen. I mean, right now it's looking like it's probably going to be war with Ukraine, which is bollocks. The whole thing is useless, nuts. Why would we even go there to do this? Because they want to get Ukraine to join the European Union, all this kind of stuff. Or a climate catastrophe, or cyber attacks, something. There's going to be something that is going to push the next wave of this great reset. They're going to give up COVID because they know that people are sick of it, and all the people in elections are sick of it, and it's making their poll numbers go down. But there will be something else, rest assured.
So we shall see. Let's move on to another subject matter that has been trending today, and that is transgender athletes playing in specifically female sports. Why is this trending today? It's trending because transgender swimmer Lia Thomas, who we've heard a lot about, has now set a record for the 500-yard freestyle at the Ivy League Championship. We all know Lia Thomas as a swimmer for UPenn, who is now on the female team, was once Will Thomas, who played on the male team and was ranking in the 400s as far as swimming competitions went, and is now ranking #1 in all female competitive swimming. Here's a quote from the race here. "You can see the powerful stroke of Lia Thomas where there isn't a whole lot of movement in her legs. It's a much quieter stroke, even though it's more powerful than a lot of these swimmers right now." So Lia Thomas is essentially entering the pool in these swimming competitions and not even having to kick her legs to win this. Whereas all of these female swimmers are going in and feeling defeated before the competition even starts. It's hard to deny that this is completely unfair. I don't know how anybody can deny that fact. And of course, the transgender activists and those who are allies to the community are coming to bat and saying this is completely fine. There is no advantage here, even though the advantage is clear. Lia Thomas is finishing up swimming meets with 30-second leads on some of these females, where normally a swim meet would have 2 to 3 seconds in between the first and the last swimmer. So it's unmistakable. The wingspan, the bone density, the lung capacity is just incomparable when you're looking at somebody who is a biological male and a post-puberty transition when compared to a biological female. And to justify this as anything other than that is just unbelievable.
Well, it's believable if you know that we live in a godless world full of lies. And if you have that type of world, then this is what you get. When truth is subjective, everyone can have their own truth. It doesn't matter what you say. And you live in a sick society where it doesn't matter what the truth is, because everyone can just have their own truth. If you have an objective truth, which there is an objective truth, and people live by that standard, these things would never happen. But the left, all they can do is destroy, and all they want to do is destroy truth. You either live by truth or you live by lies. There is no other choice. Every single time that something is presented to you, a piece of information, a video, someone talking to you, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to make a choice. Do I believe that it is true and I act on it, or am I going to know that it's true and then lie about it, right? Or believe that's a lie. And so people are taking these things that are obviously lies and making it so that they are their truth. And their truth means nothing.
Yeah, and so a lot of people will see this story and go, oh, well, it's sports. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Well, first, you should care because these are women who have worked their entire lives to do this. Their college careers are contingent upon them being able to swim, and their careers outside of college, a lot of them are contingent upon them winning these races. So now they've had a spot completely ripped away from them, and that spot is the #1. One of the announcers during this race at the Ivy League Championship said, "It's now a race for second place." That was the word spouted before, seconds into the race. It's now a race for second place. And that is an unbelievable thing to have to hear as a female swimmer. But outside of that, there are broader implications. California is one of the major states leading this charge in normalizing and giving blind affirmation to transgenderism, so much so that in our prison systems, they're now allowing male inmates who identify as female, and this is without hormone blockers, without hormone replacement therapy, without sex reassignment surgery, to then file paperwork that asks them of their gender identity, and then they can subsequently transfer over to female prisons. We have to think about how harmful that can be. In one case, a man famously known for serial killing women was transferred over to a female facility. You also have the incidents that are happening here in LA, like at We Spa, where a biological male comes into the spa and says, I identify as a woman, is led into the women's spa section and exposes himself to the young women and young children there. This is going to continue to happen so long as we justify this as a society. And you have the woke left who says, well, they need to be affirmed. They should be able to play the sports with of the group that they identify with. And I can totally understand how somebody could see that and think that that is the right route to take. But you have to think about the silent victims here. The people are getting harmed by the affirmation of this sort of ideology. And some woke leftists are going to look at that and say, and be either A, unaware of what's happening, which is problematic because you should be looking into the things that you advocate for, or B, they are cognizant of it and think, you know what, the sexual assault that comes along with this, the making the girls uncomfortable in the locker room that comes along with this, the winning of competitions that comes along with this is completely okay. And that's even more problematic, to know all those things are going on and still bow down to this ideology.
Yeah, but there's a problem with the affirming. Because there shouldn't be an affirmation of that in the first place, because it's just not true. You are not a woman in a man's body. It is just not true. Blatantly not true. I posted this thing on my Instagram today about finding a skeleton 1,000 years later. A woman says she's a man. She dies. Find her skeleton 1,000 years later. What do they say? They say she's a man, okay? Because that's what she is. And that's, when you're seeing someone in person, if a trans person came up to me and said, call me Amy instead of Daniel, whatever, sure, I'll call you Amy, okay? But that doesn't make it any more true. It doesn't make what you are doing any more true. So people who are coming and affirming lies are doing exactly that. You are lying. You are lying. And just like the silent victims Amala was just talking about, these victims are now speaking up. Victims are coming and speaking up about this, and it's more than just sports. It's more than just sports, just like Amala said, with the jails and the molestation and putting even just not even, if someone doesn't even sexually assault them, you could be potentially putting naked men in front of little children.
Yep.
Which in and of itself is disgusting already.
And is
even
happening.
If there is no sexual harassment, it's already sexual harassment, but you know what I mean. So when you are affirming lies, you get a sick society. And you can't affirm lies. You can't say that this stuff is true. As conservatives, I see conservatives coming and affirming this stuff. It's just not true. You cannot affirm that. If you are a biological male, you are a biological male. And people can call you whatever you want. You can call yourself whatever you want. Sure. But you can't affirm lies. I'm not going to live by lies of what someone else wants me to do.
I think there's just simply a line here. And again, I'm the same way. If somebody comes to me and says, I'm transgender, I would like to go by these pronouns, and this is my name. Please don't use my dead name, as they call it. Sure. But out of respect, absolutely, I will do that. But there's a line when things start to infringe upon other people, whether that's women losing competitions or girls seeing naked men in bathrooms or sexual assault like we saw in Loudoun County, Virginia, with a biological male who says, I identify as female, and then has sexually assaulted a female student twice now, an underage female student. So there are lines, and there are very clear lines, and we have to draw those lines and make those very clear, or we have incidents like this where you're harming more people than you are helping, and that's exactly what's happening here. And it's very, very unfortunate that this is even something that's up for debate. A female swimmer who's winning at 30-second strides above her female teammates.
Yeah.
It should not be up for debate.
No, there is no debate. And if you're someone, again, talking about the affirming and everything, if you're someone who can genuinely look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am fine with a man going to a woman's prison and raping women for a trans ideology, there is something wrong with you. It's like debating capitalism versus communism. There's no debate, okay? Communism is evil. Capitalism is good. That's all it is, okay? You can't have these debates anymore. These ideas are foolish. These ideas are foolish. They don't make any sense. They're disgusting, and they're lies. Okay? It's just not even worth debating anymore. Because if you are someone who says, oh, it's fine to put men in a locker room with little girls who could potentially get raped or molested, there is something wrong with you. That's it. That there is something that is messed up inside your head if you think that's okay.
Right. again, there's lines that need to be drawn. There are extreme lines that need to be drawn. Of course, there are things up for debate with this, or else we wouldn't be talking about it. But there are lines that need to be drawn, especially when it leads to harm and criminality, and that's what we are seeing here.
Not what I mean by debate is that in the sense of, obviously people are debating capitalism or communism forever. It will continue to happen forever. But I'm saying the things being compared as two analogous things that can just be switched out one for the other is it's a wrong debate to have, because it's just not true. You should be debating people about the evils of communism and all of that. But to say that you can be debating this as an alternative to capitalism, or that this trans stuff is an alternative to normalcy, they're not alternatives. They're evil ideas, and they should be eradicated.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate reality that we are living in currently, that this is happening. Moving on, one trending topic today is that Kimberly Potter, police officer Kim Potter, has now been sentenced to 2 years in prison for Dante Wright's manslaughter. For those of you unfamiliar with this case, Kim Potter had pulled over Dante Wright at a routine traffic stop, and he did try to evade arrest at one point, attempting to get back into his car and drive away. During this altercation, Kim Potter screamed, "Taser, taser, taser," attempted to reach for what she thought was her taser, but was actually her firearm, and shot this man. So, of course, this was a black man and a white police officer, so immediately the frenzy of systemic racism began on the internet and on mainstream media, and now we've seen Kimberly Potter sentenced to 2 years in prison. It's something to think about here, and something that I want to point out here, because this is a hard case to sort of give commentary on. It was completely an accident. The video evidence shows that entirely. But is this accident manslaughter, and does she deserve to go to prison for 2 years? A cop with a completely clean record who was a part of this incident. Obviously, regrettably, we've seen her testimony where she is just in tears the entire time in court. It's unfortunate. And I've spoken to a lot of police officers, because as you guys know, I work with LAPD, about this case in particular. And a lot of them are saying, I don't think that she should be sentenced to prison for this. By all means, take away her badge and have her fired. But this was an accident on a cop with a completely clean record. And this accident did result in death, which is unfortunate. But Dante Wright was evading arrest. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, it's hard to know the precedent for something like this if it's never really happened before. Maybe it has. I haven't reading up on it. I haven't really heard about anything like this before, so it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm in the same boat as you and those police officers. I mean, it doesn't seem like a punishable offense for 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
Especially, there's a certain amount of power that we give police officers in that role, and it seems to be with this more a lack of training than anything. Because if you don't know that this is your taser versus a gun, that is bad.
She's been on the force for over 20 years, so it's not a lack of training. She's been on this force for over 20 years. She's properly trained. It's an incident.
But if she's been on the force for even 20 years and then makes that kind of a mistake, that looks even worse.
I don't think that looks even worse. I think it proves that, this is just a lapse, a fumble that happened in a moment of tension. And I think it's unfortunate, because now you're having even tenured police officers who have done their job, upstandingly, clean record across the board for this woman, who are now being put in prison for making mistakes. And it can look as though, what are people who want to be good cops? Are they going to go into this profession anymore? Are they going to take it when even an accident that's not motivated or malicious lands you in prison? It's tough. I don't know. I could see where a jury could look at this and go, absolutely, manslaughter, put her in jail. But I can also see a strong case for the opposite.
Listen, I don't think that we should put her in jail. Yeah. Maybe send her to the ranch. Yeah,
maybe send her to the ranch.
Honestly, it's hard to know.
Yeah, it is hard to know.
Let me ask this. Do you guys think that there is a pressure because of the times that we live on to issue a harsher punishment on this because this was a white cop and a black person?
Well, that's definitely true.
I will say there is no police officer who in the past, I don't even know, we might even call it 4 to 8 years, has gotten a fair trial in this country. And you can't. There's no possibility of getting a fair trial when the video of your incident has been seen by everybody in America, with not only seen by them, but seen by them packaged in this envelope of white supremacy and systemic racism. How is it possible that you can find a clean jury to sit down and judge your case? It's impossible. You cannot turn on your phone in this country without seeing that police officers are systemically racist racist and they're evil. And you expect to find 12 jurors who can sit down and objectively look at this case without having some sort of bias with them?
No.
We saw this with Derek Chauvin, one of the jurors, after deciding his trial. And after him getting sentenced to 24 years, he was a supporter of Black Lives Matter. How do you think these trials are going to go? There's no way that you're getting fair and just treatment here.
No, of course not. But
yeah,
again, it's not about truth. It's not about fair treatment. It's about cowing to the agenda so that we can know that we can break you.
Yeah. It's just an unfortunate situation all around.
It is. It's terrible for both of them. The death and the accidental shooting, I mean, it's terrible for both of them.
Yep.
You know, just 2 lives ruined in a blink of an eye. It's terrible.
Yep.
Over a stupid mistake.
Now, let's get to more uplifting news.
Please.
We've been hearing a lot of talk of critical race theory in our schools, pitting kids against each other based on race, calling the white people oppressors and the black kids and people of color oppressed. We have a dad in North Carolina speaking out against that at his school board meeting, and it's a video that I would like to show you. Here we go.
Resolution, the CRT deal, because it's happening, and as a parent, I speak to other parents, there's a few things that we don't want. I'm biracial, I'm bilingual, I'm multicultural. The fact is, in America, in North Carolina, I can do anything I want, and I teach that to my children. And the person who tells my little pecan-colored kids that they're somehow oppressed based on the color of their skin would be absolutely wrong and absolutely at war with me. And I think that's the same for every parent. What the mask showed us is that the parents, the most powerful group of people in our country, that they're taking back the wheel. Now, obviously, we had to take the wheel back for the mask, but we're taking the wheel back from Washington all the way to Raleigh and into our local school board. Because CRT, all of that, the parents don't want it. It's a big fat lie. There's not one, if you believe in CRT, I want to tell you you're a liar. Because that means you look at your black neighbor and say that they're oppressed, and you look at your white neighbor and say that they're evil, regardless of the experience that you've had with them. And we're not going to do that. The parents in the United States of America, right here in North Carolina and Cabarrus County, we know that's not true because we believe the lives we live. The fact is, I've been a business owner right here in North Carolina, and I deal with white people, black people, Hispanic people. My children deal with everybody. And the racism is only happening at the government level and on the media. The fact is, you have racists, and there's you can't even find them hardly. You just hear the stories about them. But this is what we're dealing with. The parents are taking the wheel. I have an 8-year-old daughter who is absolutely dynamic, who can do anything. Athletically, intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, she is a dynamo. And I don't want a man swimming against her in the pool. The fact is, I don't want her playing against boys in soccer. I don't even let my sons rough her up. Do you think I'm going to let your son rough her up? This is what we're talking about. Policy going back to the parents. Because if you think people who love America are willing to fight for it, you haven't met parents yet. Because I'm telling you, parents will go further down any street than anyone who loves their country alone. My name is Bryan.
Amazing, 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 amazing. That's just so powerful.
Discrimination resolution.
Ooh, it's playing again. Not that I don't want to see it again, but it's just so great to see a parent go and stand up and say, no, I'm going to fight for my kids. And he says something really profound about his 8-year-old girl being a dynamo. She can just crush it in every single field that she wants to be in. And that's something that kids have naturally, this tendency to just go for things and just unabashedly try for things because they don't know the pain of getting hurt or falling down, and they just pursue things just so vividly, so much more vividly than we do as adults. It takes one adult to sit down a kid and say, you're a victim, or this is going to be more difficult for you, or you better watch out for this, 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 and this. And to lie to these kids, to ruin all of that just natural braveness and natural courage. And you don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that in their schools. And this dad is a prime example of that. And that's what every parent should be doing, is coming to bat for their children like this.
He's a domestic terrorist, apparently.
Yeah, according to the
Standing
DOJ.
up for your rights, it's according to MSNBC and the NBCCP. I think that every single person who's watching this show right now, anyone who's a parent, if you see what's happening in your school, you can be this guy. You can be any of the people we've ever played. People think that they can't do it. They think this is for the people in the videos, or they think this is for, some social media person or political personality to go and do these things, or Matt Walsh to show up in Virginia and do it, whatever it might be. You can be this person. This is a revolution of normal people. That's what the next revolution is. That's what it feels like. When I spoke at the march against the mandates in D.C., these people were not Tea Partiers. These people were not Trump-loving conservative people. They were normal people who just wanted their lives back. It's the revolution of normal people because the world has gotten so abnormal. So if you are a normal person out there watching this and you see bad things happening or evil or whatever it might be, you can be that person. All of us can be that person. And that's a comforting thought.
Yeah.
It's a comforting thought that the revolution can happen because of us. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing thing. So all of you, there's really no excuses anymore.
Yep.
We can all do it.
A 2-minute speech, so powerful and has now been seen by millions, all because he decided to show up to a weekly school board meeting, which we all can do. Yeah.
We all can do it, for sure.
Yep. Amazing. Amazing stuff. And yeah, the battle against CRT, we are winning. And it's going to be a hard-fought battle. And I think it's going to end in our favor because I think most reasonable people see this and go, oh, this is not right. And this is not what my kid needs to be taught. And they will come to task and they will show up when it's time to make their voices heard.
I mean, this is what happened the other day when we talked about those San Francisco school board members who got recalled.
Yeah,
right? It was like 3 of them in San Francisco. And the vote wasn't even close. It was like 73% was the vote that these people got taken out in San Francisco, the belly of the beast, one of the worst places in America. That is because the fight now is about parents and it's about children.
Yep.
Okay? That is the fight now. In 2022, these people know this, okay? The people who are running for office in 2022, they know the fight's about children. Look at what happened in Virginia, okay? Look at what just happened in San Francisco. If you are running for office and you're not talking about parents and you're not talking about what's happening to children, you will lose. You will lose because this is the fight. The parents understand, the parents are standing up, and they're about to take this country back. This is a war of the parents.
Yep. Perfect segue, Will, because the defeated San Francisco school board member who was voted out says that the voters who ousted her are aligned with white supremacists.
Strategy's worked so great so far. If you keep calling us white supremacists, one day, people might believe it, but it's just getting worse. These attacks mean nothing anymore. How many times can you call me a white supremacist before it just means nothing? It's just water off my back. It is water off my back.
Yes, and this was the president, Gabriela Lopez, who was ousted this past week, saying, you are aligned with white supremacists, which is so funny because this particular vote galvanized Asian Americans who came out against these school board members and said, hey, you guys are pushing for a schooling system that doesn't look at merit anymore. You're not looking at my kids' grades. You're not looking at how they write, how they read, how they do math, how much of science they understand. Instead, you are looking at their skin color and their gender and making decisions based off that. So Asian Americans came to bat. But apparently, since she can't outright call them white supremacists, she has to say that they are aligned with white supremacists, which is typical of the Asian community if I know anything about them.
Bunch of white Asians.
Yeah.
The worst type of Asian.
That's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And you'll just notice. Just watch these stories happen and watch the defeats that happen in result, and then you'll wait. Just wait for the term white supremacy to come up. You can just literally just look at your watch, and it'll come up eventually. Because that's what they lean on.
Yeah, of course. They always say it. They always say racist, white supremacist, sexist. No, my kid's, his standards, you've lowered the teaching standards, so my kid isn't doing so well. My kid can't get into college now because of what you did. Oh, well, it's because you're a racist.
It's a catch-all.
What?
I want medical freedom. Oh, you're a racist.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everything is racism. It's so boring. It's so boring to have to hear these people do this. It's a quote, I think it's Voltaire. It might not be Voltaire, but it's, I pray that my enemies are foolish. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But it's like, pray for that. If my best wish was granted, it would be that my enemies were complete fools. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's what we have. Our enemies are complete fools. If they're going to call me racist all the time and a liar and a sexist and all this kind of stuff, it's meaningless. They're foolish.
Just so weak. Yeah. So weak, yet such a powerful word. Because people hear it and they just go, yep, absolutely.
But the time is coming that conservatives are no longer, you rhinos and normal, like everyday conservatives are still very scared of being called a racist.
Yeah.
But the new generation of conservatives, the real conservatives, the Western traditionalist conservatives who want to stand up for our country, for our nation, for their heritage, these types of conservatives, we don't care about being called a racist anymore. I don't care. You shouldn't care if you're watching this right now. If someone calls you a racist, tell them to shove it. Okay, what else are you going to do? It means nothing. It literally means nothing anymore.
Yeah, it really doesn't. The words lose all their power. We have one more in this line of thinking. Bryan Cranston has made the news now. This is out of Fox News. Bryan Cranston on his quote, white blindness. I need to change. We all know Bryan Cranston as Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, a show that I love. I've seen front to end like 5 times now. I love that show. Love Bryan Cranston in that show. Unfortunate that his
Breaking
politics.
Bad?
Yeah, Breaking Bad.
You've seen it 5 times?
Oh yeah, I've seen it so many times. I could just sit and just turn on Breaking Bad and just watch. It's so good. So
never
good.
Seen it.
But yeah, fantastic show. Unfortunately, the actor has expressed that he needs to acknowledge his white blindness, and it's something that needs to change. This precipitated because he was offered a role or a directing role in a comedy from 1984 called The Foreigner. And it's a comedy about an Englishman who prevents the conversion of a Georgia fishing lodge into a Ku Klux Klan meeting place. So that's the premise of this comedy. Here's Cranston's quote. "It is a privileged viewpoint to be able to look at the KKK and laugh at them and belittle them for their broken and hateful ideology. But the KKK in Charlottesville and white supremacists, that's still happening. And it's not funny. It's not funny to any group that is marginalized by these groups' hatred. And it really taught me something." I want to find another quote here. "And I realized, oh my God, if there's one, there's two. If there's two, there are 20 blind spots that I have. What else am I blind to? If we're taking up space with a very palatable play from the 1980s where rich old white people can laugh at white supremacists and say, shame on you, and have a good night in the theater, things need to change. I need to change." I can't think of anything better to do to a white supremacist than to go, ha ha ha, shame on you. So why does this have anything to do with having some amount of white privilege or white supremacy as an underlying factor in this play? The best thing that you can do at somebody who carries a ridiculous ideology, something as ridiculous as thinking that white people are supreme when compared to other races, the best thing you can do is look at a person like that and go, you're hilarious. That's the most funny thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I could understand it if he's a Democrat, and the Democrats founded the KKK. So, I mean, it kind of works for him. But I guarantee we have thousands of people watching right now, and I can guarantee you that not one of them is a member of the KKK. I will eat my words if that's true, but I can pretty much guarantee you no one watching right now is a member of the KKK. Mm-hmm. And even more, I will double down, no one watching right now has ever met or probably even seen a member of the KKK. I can basically guarantee that with 99.99% certainty that it's such a washed out organization that is so backwoods that no one ever knows anything about. I mean, their numbers are completely dwindled. No one takes them seriously. I mean, to say that you're worried about the fears of the KKK for black people is such a straw man argument. The KKK isn't even around.
Yeah. It just doesn't make nothing.
If you want the real
racist,
sense. Go to the classroom and talk to a teacher for an elementary school. Those are the real racists, not the KKK. Of course, the KKK is racist, but there are barely any of them. They're not there. Yeah. When was the last time you heard about black people getting lynched? Any of this kind of stuff? It's just not happening.
Yeah,
it's a straw man argument.
It's like, obviously racism exists. So long as race exists, there will be people who are racist. And the best thing that you can possibly do with somebody who holds those views is to laugh at them and say, shame on you. That is nonsense. Because people have the right to hold those views in this country. And that's just something that is protected in this country. You can believe those things. And of course it exists on a smaller scale than anybody on the left would be willing to admit, which is unfortunate. Because if we did admit that, we would stop talking about it, and it wouldn't be this issue that keeps being brought up by celebrities and elites and by the mainstream media and by all these stories. But it's just ridiculous to keep spouting this and making it something bigger than it's not, and making people fearful and making people feel like this country is something that it typically is not.
It's not even typically. I mean, it is not. It is not. I mean, the founding fathers didn't make this country built off of racism.
No.
It's the complete opposite.
No. Yeah.
And speaking of ridiculous ideologies, it's the woke left's ridiculous ideology that says that very thing, and that's the one that needs to be laughed at. They're the people pushing the critical race theory. That's their ideology. Climate hysteria, all this stuff that they're always pontificating about. They're the ones with the crazy ideology that we should be laughing at.
Right. And I thought what Alan said yesterday at our thing was really great, where he talked about Thomas Jefferson and the lies of the left, and he was like, yeah. Thomas Jefferson, he owned slaves, but in his own personal diaries, he talked about getting rid of his slaves, and he literally couldn't do it. But then he did his best to, like teach them to read and write and all these other things. And also, he was the founder of this country, and he mentored George Washington and John Adams and James Monroe, James Madison, these other people. He was an amazing man, a great man who might have had a little bit of a stain on his history. But it's like, if that's the thing that you're worried about, and looking back in history or looking back at time and saying, I have all this privilege because of that and things, it's such a laughable way to look at your life. To say that I'm looking at the past and one stain on someone's history and saying, well, now I can't believe these things or think that these people were good in any sort of way or look past white privilege. It's ludicrous.
And that's what happens with all history. It lacks so much nuance. Like there's nothing. Most people, you can look at a historic figure and tell maybe the top 3 things about them, yet they led lives similar to our own, daily lives with family and friends and a community that they live with, and every single day was different, just like every single one of our days is different. Yet when we look back at history, we view people as just these singular beings. George Washington, first president in the military, white supremacist. That's how people view him, as if he did not lead a normal life like we all do. And it's just something we always have to be cognizant of. It's a blinder that we all have. It really is. Now, guys, well, it's the end of our show, which means we are going to do our Fun Friday segment. Today for Fun Friday, we are doing Answer the Internet, where we have some strange questions to pontificate on, and we'll give you answers. Answer the Internet number 1. If you could have an endless supply of anything, what would it be? This is really difficult. Time?
Time.
Oh, you want to be immortal?
No, I don't want to be immortal. No,
Okay.
I if I could have an endless supply of anything, love.
That's a good answer.
You went all deep.
That is a good answer. Love to give or love given to you?
Just universal love.
Just universal.
Yeah.
Just love in all shapes and forms.
Hippie
Wow. Okay.
And weed.
Okay, Will. I don't know. Endless supply of anything. What would it be? I was trying to think of something more not in the abstract.
Will and Amala live podcasts.
Yeah, I don't have an
Shameless
answer.
plug.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have an answer.
Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'd just be like money, because I feel
Endless
like I
supply of
have
money?
an endless supply of love
Right.
through
money.
my relationship with God and my wife
Oh.
and family
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
already. And you can do a lot with money.
Oh,
Influence.
that's how I feel too.
So
Endless supply. Family and friends, maybe.
An endless supply of family.
Endless
you want
supply.
a million family members?
Oh, an endless
Infinity.
supply.
My family is infinite.
You'll never get to
I
see
don't know.
all
It's
of them.
kind of hard to I don't know. I can't think of.
Someone said time. I wouldn't want an endless supply of
I don't know that I would
No,
want
I
to be.
wanna- I wanna
Yeah,
die.
immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. An endless supply of anything. What
Freedom.
would it
That's a
be?
good one.
No, I don't want.
Actually,
an,
yeah, no.
I don't want that either.
Freedom is not.
I'm not a libertarian.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Conservative.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
I want endless supply of truth.
That would be a hard life.
Baked hot Cheetos.
Baked hot Cheetos.
Foot massages.
I do love baked hot Cheetos.
I love a good foot massage.
Foot massages. That's a good answer.
Fantastic.
Love is the best answer.
Chips at the
Herb-
blackjack
Right
table.
out of the gate.
Herbal tea.
Ew.
I like herbal tea.
I've been getting into it. It's good. Herbal tea. Carbonara.
Okay.
Tacos.
Might not be the best health choice.
Tacos.
Okay.
Dave and Buster's tokens.
Pool games. We like
There
to
you
play
go.
pool.
Right.
It's expensive out here.
It's expensive out
Right.
here. It is.
COVID.
It's pricey.
Nose swabs.
COVID nose swab. It's very useful.
All right.
Very useful.
Antibodies.
Okay, next one.
And yes, spike proteins.
Yeah.
Answer the internet. If you could live anyone's life with anyone's body, who would you be? Oh,
Can they be two different things? One
Yeah.
person's
Yeah,
life
yeah,
and one
someone's-
person's body?
Tiana Taylor, body.
I don't know who that is.
If you watch Kanye West's music video for Fade, Tiana Taylor. Person's life. Whose brain do I want rattling around up there? Whose life?
Aragorn.
I don't know.
Gimli.
Treebeard.
I don't know if somebody that I watch.
want my
and I'm
own
like,
life.
I want your life. Yeah. I
God
don't
made
know.
me unique. I want to live the life that he made for me.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't want to be in anyone's body. I don't want.
Wow,
I
so
don't
profound.
want anyone in my mind. I want to be me. I love Will Witt.
Not to ruin the question, but
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I don't. If I was supposed to experience someone else's body, I would have been put inside their body.
Oh my gosh, you're still supposed to, you still think about these things.
No, I love my life.
It's still a fun question. I don't know.
Not
I
that
picked
fun.
the body.
Since I play volleyball, I could use a few extra inches of height. I mean, I'm already like 6'2", 6'1", but 6'9" would be nice.
Who's like the
Be a
kindest
blocker.
person that I know? Or like in the world?
Oh, this is so
I don't
sappy.
know. Whoever that is, I'd pick that life and
Yawn.
Tiana Taylor's body.
The Rock's body, Gandhi's
Tiana
life.
Taylor's body.
Just gonna be really
No,
kind.
Gandhi
and
was
really hot.
not as great as people think he is, but
know
anyways.
True.
Okay, next one. If you could die and come back as any inanimate object, what would it be?
Inanimate object.
Inanimate object.
I reject the premise. of
You
this question.
have to answer it, so it's too late.
What
inanimate object gets to like see the most things and move around the most?
Maybe I don't want to see all the things.
Yeah, depending on what you see.
Depending on what you see.
You could be the statue of Lincoln in Washington, D.C. that will eventually get torn down and defaced by BLM protesters.
I think I would
It's
be.
really difficult.
Yeah, it's a really weird question.
I would be probably a TV remote.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very important to a family. I want to be important to
Want
a
to be
family.
important? But what about like a family photo then, or like?
Would
no,
you really
no,
want?
because I just stay there. But if I'm a TV remote, people are always looking for me, right?
Then be like an iPhone or something.
No. That's
Would you
too
really
much.
want people pushing your buttons all day?
That's the point. I want that.
Oh gosh, it's so funny.
People
Yeah,
turning
I
me
hate
on
this
all
question.
day.
Yeah.
This question does kind of suck.
And
I'm just
turning
getting
you
turned
off.
on all day
Yeah,
and turned off. You know.
checking your batteries,
Yeah.
knocking you against the table when you're not working right.
Glasses.
Glasses?
I'm like, what gets to go around the most? I was thinking suitcase first, but then you don't get to see anything. You just go on the plane and then you go in the hotel room.
Yeah.
So
I would
maybe
be-
somebody's glasses.
I would be a spaceship.
A space.
I would be.
Pretty good.
I'd be Will Witt's watch.
Wow.
I'd be Will Witt's glasses.
That watch sees way too
Yeah.
much.
It-
Way too much. I would not
I've
want to be
seen
Will.
much. Yes.
What
Will
would
Witt's
be
cavity filling.
okay? Answer the
Yeah, Will Witt's
internet.
cavity filling. I just went to
Yikes.
the dentist this week. Oh, it sucks.
Ugh.
It's
It's
horrible.
not fun. It's not
No,
fun.
it's terrible.
Next one. Answer the internet. What would be 3 examples of your living hell?
3 examples of my living hell.
Gender studies class.
Having an itchy eye for the rest of your life.
No, that is terrible.
That's
Having a rock in your
a
shoe.
living hell.
I would say probably if I had to be in like if it was like a modern political science course and I was the only conservative in there and the other people were like rhino conservatives and they were libertarians.
Wow,
And we
that's
had
your
to talk
living
about
hell.
that would be horrible.
If you had to do that for the rest of your
Being
life,
stuck with neocons in a room
for the rest of
talking
your
about
life.
policy would be absolutely terrible.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really bad.
I had that experience at a conference once. It wasn't great. It
It's
was more
terrible.
libertarians.
It's terrible.
Trying to think of what's a really bad situation to be in.
California.
Yeah, exactly. I'm already in a living hell, right?
It's not that bad, guys.
Being without you two.
Wow, totally genuine answer
Living
that
hell.
one. Totally genuine answer that one.
Not ever seeing you guys again.
That's what I just said.
Oh. YouTube. I thought you said YouTube.
No, you two.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
I'll
the
give you credit.
worst? The worst thing is like I hate arguing with like significant others. If you're just in a perpetual cycle of an endless hell of just arguing with somebody and it just never ends, that would be the worst for me. Also, that episode of Black Mirror where the guy's just stuck in this frozen cabin on a
terrible.
loop of perpetual,
Terrible.
just like 10,000 years listening to the same exact song over and over. Worst
That one
nightmare.
freaks me out.
That one was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my 3 answers.
Yeah. And having to like, if you had to walk around everywhere in ice skates,
That would not be fun.
how would you do that?
Now we're getting into like would you rather territory.
We really
Fine,
are.
Fine.
Okay.
People are saying The View. A couple from the audience. Someone said my
Okay, this
live my
is
life
not
again.
up for debate. We're not answering that next one.
All right.
What is the next one?
The next one is, what is your stance on washing your hands after going to the bathroom? There should not be anything up for debate there.
What do you mean there's nothing? I debate this.
What? What do you debate?
The Dwight Schrute approach.
Well, it's stupid.
Explain why that's stupid, please.
Listen, if you go,
yourself.
if you go number 2,
Please
wash your hands, okay? But if you go number 1, you men watching, you know you don't wash your hands.
There's a at home versus
This
in
is-
public place.
this
There's
is
a, did I touch anything?
This is
Listen,
unacceptable.
Ever since the CDC told me to wash my hands, I haven't washed them in 2 years.
Ever since I moved here
Resist
and
much,
met
obey
Will
little.
Witt,
I hope
ever
I
since I
hope
shook your hand, I've never washed it.
every single one of you who shows up to one of Will's speaking engagements, do not shake his hand.
No, everybody knows this though. Everyone, it's like flossing. Everybody says, "Oh, the dentist says, do
It
you
is
floss?"
not the same
They say,
as
"Do you floss?" And you say,
flossing.
"Yes, I floss." And you know you don't really floss that much.
It is not the same
People
as
do not wash their
flossing.
hands as much as they say they wash their hands. It's just a fact.
I wash my hands every single time I go to the bathroom.
Well,
every
then
single
you're
time I go
gonna
to the
dry
bathroom.
out your hands.
Even if I went, no, this is unacceptable.
No, it's
This is unacceptable.
Listen, I'm not. It's a modern day phenomenon that is just.
To touch your private parts and to not wash your hands.
You're like not
And then,
even.
and to be in a job where
not
you
that
shake
bad.
hands with people so
oh
often.
my God! It's not like I'm saying I never wash my hands.
Both of you. Both
But
of
I'm
you.
saying it's like people don't go and do it.
Both of you, this changes here and now. Here and now, this changes.
Why are you implicating me in this?
Because you said that you do it too.
I didn't say I do it.
Yes, you
I
agreed
said
with
it's
Will.
understandable.
It is not
No,
understandable.
listen. You can say whatever you want, Amala, but every man watching knows. They all know. You think men are going into the bathroom every time that they just go pee and nothing touches their hands basically, and they're washing their hands with soap?
If you're about to go
It's
wash,
just you tell me, Taylor. You know it's not true. You know it's not true. That's why this question is good.
Okay, but it grosses me out if you're at a like public like restaurant or something, and I see this all the time. Dudes like just go pee and walk right out. And that grosses me out.
I wash my hands before I eat because I don't want to put things that have gone in like with it, and I don't want to.
Oh, but you'll
them.
touch other people's hands and handshake with them and say, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Will Witt."
That's not what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying.
No, if I'm somewhere where I'm meeting people, my hands are going to be
You
washed.
don't
My
know
hands are
when
going to
you're
be
going to
clean.
meet people. You meet people all the time.
My hands are going to be clean. Okay.
Never stop
But
Will on the street
listen,
when he's leaving his house.
Just got this chocolate stick. No,
All right,
but
I think we should move on.
I think we're done here.
I'm just saying the men.
I think this is the end of our
understand.
show because
We
I
can't
quit.
end on this. That's bad.
One more. Would you
All right.
rather add 50 years to your lifespan and become a ghost upon death, or reduce your lifespan and be reincarnated continuously?
The first one.
Okay. So you'll live to
Wait, so you never get to be done? You're either a ghost forever or you're reincarnated as a young person forever?
Yeah, you never die.
Or maybe the second one. I don't know.
Well, you die and you become a ghost.
I
Or
don't-
you get.
I don't want either one of those.
Well, you have to pick.
It's a would you rather.
Well, that's what you have to choose. That's the point.
Yeah. Would you rather be like stuck in life or in death?
Or in death. I think I'd rather be stuck in life.
By pain of death.
I think I'd rather be stuck in life.
It's like on Davy Jones's ship.
So do you want like 1,000 short lives or one long life that ends in you being a ghost?
I would rather live one lifetime with you than face all the ages of
The
this world alone.
Reduce and
Lord of the
reincarnate.
Lord of the Rings.
That's my answer. Reduce and reincarnate.
So yeah, would you rather be like one of the corrupted men who lives in the cave forever, or like an elf?
An
Well,
elf,
an elf
of
for sure.
course.
But this isn't really an
course.
elf. It's like an elf who dies over and over again.
But if you're reincarnated, you get companionship and other people.
Wait, are
If
you
just
like
become
other
a ghost.
lives as a reincarnation?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe in any of this stuff. That's weird.
Well, it doesn't matter if you believe in it. It's a would you rather. You guys
I
can't
just
go.
want to go to heaven. Check out.
I reject the
I agree.
premise of the
I'm with
question.
Taylor.
Okay,
I agree with
guys.
Taylor.
Thank you so much for watching Will and Amala live. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single day when we go live. I hope you're watching on the Will and Amala live channel. Please subscribe there. We are almost to 13.5 thousand, and we want to hit 15 as soon as possible.
A lot of you watching there have still not subscribed to the channel.
We know
can see
it.
in the analytics, and many of you watching on PragerU are not subscribed to PragerU channel. What are y'all even doing?
We're watching
Subscribe
you guys.
to both channels and
We're
turn
watching.
the notifications on.
So, yeah.
I did see today, too, by the way, just real quick. Someone said they're subscribed and have notifications on for both channels, but they got the Will Amala notification right when we went live, and they got the PragerU one like 30 minutes later, which might mean that YouTube's after us, and they haven't gotten to Will Amala live yet. But anyway, you'll get your notifications faster if you're subscribed with notifications on to the new channel.
Right.
That was very quick. Taylor sounded like me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will be back on Monday.
With washed hands, baby.
We hope.